Hey, what needs to happen before you tighten up your numbers or actually understand them? What happens before you put your systems in place? Before you show up online and start scaling your visibility? These are simple yet essential steps that lay the foundation for your real lasting success. And these are the things that we're going to be talking about in my brand new free Zoom event, Prereqs for Success. I have invited the powerhouse lineup of the Luann University instructors to come to this Zoom event with us, and each one is going to share one actionable tip, the thing that they wish they knew earlier in the business, the thing that will help you gain some clarity or push the needle on your business, something that you will be able to leave that meeting with and be able to put into business right now. Okay, so it's all happening Wednesday, August 14th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is completely free. It is via Zoom. It is easy. Don't miss it. Go to luannniagara.com/success to save your seat. That's luannniagara.com/success. These, who knows? You could walk away with the one idea that just clears up your mind and gets you racing down the finish line, right? So come join me. I can't wait to see you there. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Niagara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know that we're doing something a little different over the next several months. We're bringing back the most downloaded, the most talked about episodes from the last 9 years of A Well-Designed Business. These are the episodes that built businesses, that sparked aha moments, that turned you into an action taker. Now, if you're wondering why we're revisiting these episodes and what's changing with the show overall, well, I walk you through the full vision in our April 25th, 2025 episode titled The Big Shift, What's Changing on a Well-Designed Business and Why. That episode is linked for you in the show notes. Now, a quick heads up. These episodes are airing as they originally did. That means the music might sound familiar or it might be vintage. That means the event dates will definitely be out of date that I talk about. And it also means that any offers that are mentioned may or may not be valid still. But the insights, still golden. So whether it's your first time hearing this episode or your fifth time hearing it, there's something in this conversation for you right now in this season of your business. So here's the show. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today on the show, I have another interior designer who, like many of you, comes to interior design as a second career. Courtney McLeod is the principal of Right Meets Left Interior Design in New York City. And although Courtney had a lifelong passion for the decorative arts, she first earned a business degree from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and she pursued a successful 15-year career in the financial services industry, rising to a leading portfolio management role in real estate private equity. Despite her success at the peak of her career, she knew it was time to pursue her true passion, designing beautiful interiors. And she went ahead using the skills gained through her experience, her transferable skills, just like Erica Ward taught us in episode 6, and enhanced them with her design-related studies at Parsons, Pratt, and the New York School of Interior Design. Together with these all bundled up into one package, she confidently embarked on a new course and has never looked back. Now, before I introduce you to Courtney, I want to remind you that a Well-Designed Business podcast is coming up on its third birthday party this year in February. And our show sponsor, Kravet, is having a big party for us in New York City at the D&D building on February 5th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. A party is free. There's no ticket price, but you absolutely must RSVP because the space is limited, okay? So I hope that you'll join us. If you want information on how to do it and how to do the RSVP, go to luannigara.com, click on events and coaching, and then click on attend a live event. You'll see this event right there, along with the dates for all of the events that I've got coming up in the first quarter of 2019. So I'm going to be in Las Vegas at KBIS. I'm going to be at Lucas Alexander Showroom in Philly. I'm going to be at Waterworks in the Boston Design Center. And of course, I'm going to be at the IWC in Nashville. It's all there. So first stop on this tour is February 5th, New York City at the Kravet Showroom for the birthday party. I sure hope you'll come out to meet me, introduce yourself to me, and that we get a chance to chat. All righty. Now, let me introduce you to Courtney. Hi, Courtney. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of the podcast, so it's a real delight for me to be joining you.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. And I also want to give a shout out to two people that we're both huge fans of. Gail Davis is a designer who's been on the show, and she's a friend of mine and a friend of yours, and she introduced us by bringing you to Window Works for the Lunch and Learn that Nicole Heimer of Curio Electro was running, right?
Yes, two fabulous ladies. Hi, Gail. Hi, Nicole.
I know. Huge fan club here of these two women. So, and then also to our common friends of Byron and Tiffany of Cordero Consulting. And so shout out to them as well.
They are the best.
Yes. And here's the thing. Tiffany reached out to me and she said, we're working with Courtney McLeod and we really think she'd be great for the podcast. And, everybody thinks their people are going to be great for the podcast. Just saying, right? And so I'm reading it and then I'm like, oh, she comes from the financial background. Oh, real estate background. Oh, she has a 6-step process. Slam dunk. Let's have this lady. So this was you have me at hello moment, because here's what I know, Courtney, and you know it from listening to the show too, is that as business owners, we all have, whether we've defined it or not, we have a sort of a system. So the smart ones have defined it, but all of us, even if we're not really have it defined yet, we sort of have a system for going through a project. But the differentiator that I believe that really enables an interior designer to scale up and start to charge higher fees and make more money and be more profitable and attract more successful projects is when they recognize line in the sand, let me enunciate my system, let me own it internally, and let me project it out to my potential clients. Do you agree with that?
It's so true. And, for me, it did take time to get there, to figure out what is my process. And, I think every designer approaches the process a little bit differently. And so I certainly didn't emerge fully formed.
Right. None of us do, by the way.
And I'm by no means at the end either. This will continue to evolve. But once I made the decision and really, put thought and focus on, okay, let me sit down and define the process first for myself and then for my clients, it was absolutely transformative. And not only in terms of my own efficiency and how I run my business, but I think also the types of clients I've been getting and, the types of sort of how the process runs throughout has been different because I feel more confident in, guiding the client because they know where they are in the process, but I also know where I am in the process. And so I think it gives a lot of comfort, not only, outside of the firm, but also for us internally.
And I have to say, I recall Rachel Cannon saying the exact same thing. She literally said, once I took everything that I knew and what I did and put it into a defined process, it was it literally was the night and day switch for the firm taking off.
It really, and it's so impactful, and it's not just, sort of on paper numbers or the physical. It's also your confidence level. I think it really helps. And at the end of the day, it's about the confidence that you exude. I think that's a big part of, why people put their faith and their trust and, quite frankly, their financials in your hands. And so everything that you can use, every tool at your disposal to build your confidence and to help you communicate that to the world and to existing and potential clients, it's such a huge benefit. I cannot say how big it's been for us.
It's very true because I know from when I coach designers one-on-one, and they often will say to me, how do I make that difference? How do I make that gap? How do I go from this type of project to that type of project? And the truth is, I think they think I'm full of crap because I say over and over again, when you have defined your systems and you stand in them and you communicate them and you feel the confidence that comes internally from knowing this is your system, then it is the moment. It is because two things happen, right? Here's the two things that I believe happen. You tell me what you think. Not only, as you just said, it helps you with your own confidence, right? But having the confidence is the one little step before raising your fees and the one little step before turning down the projects that don't serve you. And so the thing is, it's like a chicken and or an egg thing. And I always say, yes, the confidence is the flipping point, but how you get the confidence is to have a confident set of systems for running your business. Like, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. Let me scream it from the rooftop. I mean, what you just said is exactly what has happened and is happening in my business right now. I mean, I've got chills right now.
Yes. Well, and it's funny because I think sometimes as business people, we're searching for something that must be more complicated than that. And it really isn't.
But you know what, Luann, I will say that it isn't at least for me, it wasn't a straight line from A to B process.
Agreed.
I tried to sort of get there a few times over the years, but it took trial and error to figure out what really worked. And I have to give you a shout out. I wish I remembered which episode it was, but one of your guests talked about approaching everything, not tailoring everything to the client, but tailoring everything to you, to understanding what works for you. And that was like a magic moment for me. And I think that was like the spark that enabled me to develop the process that I have now that works really well for me. And, because it works well for me, it therefore works well for the client.
Right. And it therefore attracts the client that aligns with you because that's process that you like and works for you, works for them. Right?
Yes.
And I agree. I don't mean to imply by any stretch of the imagination that just make a system and then you'll be amazing.
Nope.
But the thing go ahead.
It can be really frustrating. I'll be honest. It can be, just why can't I get this right? I'm I'm making a quote unquote system. And so then automatically things should be, falling into place. And, I think it's okay to have that, uncertain time. So just for anyone out there who's going through that, it's okay. And in fact, you won't get to the process that works for you, I don't think, without going through a bit of that trial and error.
Agreed. And the thing is that what I say it, I have it on my website, my WindowWorks website. I've said it on the show before. An expert is the person who's made all the mistakes in a particular field. Right?
Yes.
I mean, and so you cannot just pop out and expect to bring all of this to the table. I think for me, what I continue to try and hammer is, please don't resist that this is that little switch. There are many switches that help you, it's like starting an airplane. The pilot at the beginning is like flipping. He does 10 buttons and then the plane will start, right? But Don't resist that one of the most important switches to flip is the establishing of your system. And I have listened to and spoken to designer after designer try and say, well, I've got to get my Instagram going and I've got to get this and I've got that, and then this will happen. And I just say point blank, all of that is after this switch. Okay?
Yes.
Right? Agreed?
Yes. And I wish that I had focused more energy on this earlier on. Mm-hmm. If I could go back, because I was absolutely that designer that you're talking about. I said, yep, my Instagram is banging. I've got, I'm doing things, and let me put this in the back burner because it's kind of painful and it's not very fun. And I don't want to, focus on it too much. But, you go through, you have difficulties, and, you have some projects that go well and some projects that don't. And then at some point you have to kind of have that conversation with yourself and say, okay, what is my responsibility here, mm-hmm. and why have, X, Y, and Z happened? Mm-hmm. And I think once you do that, the clarity comes. It's surprising. Like, it really, if you're open to the process, and again, I go back to that guest that you had that talked about, focusing on what works for you, mm-hmm. versus trying to be everything to everyone, trying to tailor yourself to each individual client and do it exactly the way they think it should be done.
Right.
You're going to drive yourself crazy.
Right. And
I drove myself crazy.
Right. And what I don't like about that is that is, to me, we've been a common theme lately on the show is talking about food in preparation in relation to what you guys do. And to me, that's like a renowned chef that is working at an upscale restaurant, or even a pizza parlor guy. Let's be real. You love the way his pizza is made. You love the way his pizza is made. You come there for that style, that taste, that combination of ingredients. You don't walk in and say, well, I mean, if you put a little extra sugar in the sauce today, that'd be great. And if you do this, and then the next day. The point is that, to what you just said, when you establish how you do it, what works for you, and you repeat that over and over again, it becomes the thing that gels everything and makes it so that a client feels safe within the process, because they're in a process and that makes them feel safe.
Absolutely. And, we have to remember, this is a big financial investment. Mm-hmm. This is a lot of money. They have to trust you.
Right, exactly.
And so use every tool at your disposal to get to that trust. Because once they trust you, the heavens open, and, suddenly not only do they trust you in terms of investing their money in a smart way, but also in terms of your creativity. And so you show them that, amazing wallpaper, and suddenly they're like, oh, well, I don't know, but, I trust you.
Right. Right.
It's interesting the way that works, but I found it to be incredibly important and effective.
Well, and because you've presented yourself as trustworthy, but that there is something that they can hang on to that can be trusted. So just like you trust the pizza guy to make it the same way each time, and that's why you go back, they can hear and feel that you have a roadmap. You know where you're going. Okay, I might not know anything about an interior design project, but she does, as opposed to the designer, like you said, when you're earlier in your career and you're like, well, client A, you want to do it this way, and client B, you want to do it that way. I'll just change with the wind. There's no trust there. And the thing is, in the beginning, you can kid yourself that you're being helpful, that you're being service orientated, that you're being compliant and making it good for the client's experience by adapting everything you do to them. But the reality is that it's just like everything else. You're the professional. They come to you to know that you are going to do it a certain way, that you've enunciated it and you can repeat it, right?
It's true. And I find that if it is a subtle but constant understanding, it helps. Like, you don't have to be a bulldozer about it. You know, you don't a drill sergeant at all. You know, I have generally a softer touch. It works for me. And, you know, but if I am gentle but firm, gentle but firm, it works. And again, you just sort of say, let's go back, you know, here we are in the process, you know, this is where we are. This, you know, you just sort of keep reinforcing that, and it helps them, but it also gives you a little bit of backup. Right. You know, you can say, it's not just me telling you this, you know, this is part of a bigger plan.
Right. And that's the truth. It does have to come within your own personal style. So no different than a kindergarten teacher is gently but firmly not going to let 26 kids run amok, but she's not going to beat them over the head and talk to them the way you would talk to a 15-year-old, right? Yes. So there's a way, and it's, hey, we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this. We don't go to lunch after, you know, morning, you know, Pledge of Allegiance. That comes later. And it's no different in the project with you. It's like, well, no, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this is the next step, and then we can get to there. So
and you know what? You also start to attract the clients who work well with that, so that they fit your style. You know, the clients you're working with are fitting your style. And, you know, another unexpected thing that happened, you know, as I got more confident with the process, was getting more confident with more clearly and wholly embracing my style as well. You know, because from a creative side, for a long time, I thought, gosh, I want to just kind of be everything to everyone creatively. And yes, I can do a beautiful neutral room. I can do texture. I can do all of that. But color is my thing. And that's okay. In fact, that's a great thing. And so I've really made an effort to put that out there. If you look at my Instagram, it's color, color, color. You know, you look at my portfolio, it's happy, joyful color. And you know, it hasn't, you know, dampened my business. If anything, it's expanded it, because people come to me and they say, oh, I'm a little afraid and I don't want to be, you know, can you help me get there? And so I think that the creative confidence also grew unexpectedly from having confidence in the process.
Nice. And that's really talking about the way you lead with your color and you express it and you show it. You don't shy away from it. That's calling out a sub niche right there. That's leaning into it. And like you said, so the person that's attracted to it and is already confident with it and is, well, I found the lady for me. But then, as you said, the client that's attracted to it but scared to death, but sees that he or she is in good hands based on the work that you are showing. So that's awesome. I love that. And so you don't worry about doing one more white room, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like what you want to do, right? And by the way, it's not so easy to put together a white room. I'm not disparaging that one bit.
It's not, and you also
not easy at all.
It's not. It's quite difficult, but it's also you won't necessarily not get that client either. In fact, one of my, I love this client I'm working with right now. We're doing her loft in Chelsea, and she was beige, a little gray, beige. And for the most part, it's a pretty neutral space. But I've gently introduced, color that she's comfortable with. But in general, it's still very neutral. So, I thought that I would never get that neutral client if I put my color foot forward, but I haven't found that to be the case at all.
Okay, so you're still attracting all ends. But then, and even in that, you're respecting the client, but you still your aesthetic is coming through,
Yes.
is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's become a really wonderful process, and I think the space is even better because of it.
Nice. I love it. So these 6 steps: understanding you, creative focus, seamless execution, construction oversight, finale, and closure meeting. I really want to make sure that we hit 1 and 6. The others we can get to. Maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Sure.
But I want to hit number 1 and 6. So tell us a little bit about number 1, understanding you.
Yeah, and phase 1, I very specifically and intentionally called it understanding you because I wanted to establish from the beginning that our process isn't to come in and railroad you or push you into something that doesn't fit your lifestyle or your style. Our entire goal is to understand you and to elevate your style. And so I wanted clients to know and to, again, trust, that keyword trust, that I would be listening. And so phase 1 is really all about listening and understanding what are their goals, what is their style, and if they can't articulate it, using our process to help them articulate it, understanding where they are financially, are there specific time deadlines, what exactly is this project, what is your goal, and how can we help you? And through phase 1, answering all of those questions sets us up for a successful project that gets us to a fabulous and a happy client closure meeting. Okay. So phase 1 is critical.
And so how do you execute phase 1? It starts with the first contact into the firm by the client, or phase what? Tell us about it.
It starts with the first contact into the firm. Generally, I'll either do a phone call. Usually it's a phone call, or they'll come into the office. And it's really like a getting to know you call. It's, asking them about the project, understanding the scope, the location, what they're looking for, their expectations, talking a bit about budget and if that's realistic, and really just kind of trying to suss out if the project could be a good fit for us. And depending on, sort of how much information or the scope of the project or sort of the scale of the project, I can either go straight to a proposal from that conversation, or we'll go to a site visit and then to a proposal.
Okay. And
so then once we have, the proposal and everyone's on board and we're good to go, the very first thing I send out is our welcome packet. And in the welcome packet, it basically has a questionnaire that, asks them, the basics, who's the contact person? Do you like, do you prefer phone or email? That kind of practical stuff. And then we also ask, what's your favorite color? Where do you like to travel? All those sorts of background questions. And we also put in there, we re-articulate our process. So our process is really outlined in detail in the proposal. And then we give it to them again in the welcome packet. So it's okay. You saw this before. This is like the third time you're seeing this.
I love it.
And in our welcome packet, we also have our rules of the road. And it's a little sheet this is another idea that I got from your podcast. And, again, it gently but firmly says, these are our hours. This is, how we like to work. It's, talks about trusting the process. And, at the very end, I say, let's have a joyful experience.
Nice.
And so it's setting the tone for the project. And then we have our initial client meeting, and this is really where we get into the nitty gritty. Because we have that pre-questionnaire, I have a little bit of a feel for what I'm getting into. If they have any Pinterest boards or anything like that, I've asked them to, please send that to us in advance of the meeting. And from there, we go through, another set of questions. We talk in more detail about budget and scope, and we go through initial design concept ideas. And so what I really like to do with clients is to walk them through a series of photographs of spaces, all different styles, all different sort of levels of cost. And by doing that, it helps them to articulate what they like and to see things that they didn't know they liked, but then they have a really strong positive or negative reaction to something, and they say, oh, I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, I really, that's a great idea. And so that's been a really helpful tool. I don't know if a lot of designers do that. Maybe that's pretty typical, but that's something that has been very, very helpful for us. And so we take all of that information, and after that initial client meeting, we put together a detailed scope. We do an initial budget allocation. We do our design concept boards, and we do a furniture plan. And then we have a second client meeting to review all of that. And I find that if we're on the same page with those items, then we are rocking and rolling and we're ready to go. And so that's what the whole phase one is all about.
Okay. All right. So now I got to go back and pick it apart. Okay.
Sure.
Ready? All right.
Sure.
So when you are, the first thing that occurs to me, you said in the first contact, the get to know you conversation, where you're going to talk about scope and budget and location and goals, things like that. How, you said sometimes you can go straight to proposal from that. And
yes.
So proposal, does that include the fees and things like that? Like, how are you, what is proposal? Okay. So
proposal is our design services agreement. So that includes fees, that includes everything. And in order to go from call to proposal, by email, we have received detailed photography of the space. We've received, if there's some sort of floor plan available. They've sent us, some Pinterest boards for reference. They've sent us a lot of information. So it's for that client that is pretty organized and prepared so that we have enough to be able to price the project. But we have to really be able to understand the scope to do that.
Okay, so that makes more sense. Okay, I'm thinking we're having a nice how do you do phone call, and I'm like, what? How did we price that? Okay, so that could be for clients that are out of town or out of state, and they've got a project in Manhattan, and they going to do a loft like you said, but their primary residence is wherever. Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, so that happens, and then we get this welcome packet. Oh no! Then we go to site visit, and then after the proposal. So once the proposal goes out, they sign it.
Yes.
And are they giving you money at this point?
Yes, we take a retainer, which we hold to the end of the project.
Okay. And how do you decide what the size of that retainer is? Do you have set guidelines, or how do you do that, Courtney?
So this is something that I learned from the fabulous Kimberly Sheldon. And so I tie it to how much I think 1 to 2 months of fees would be.
Okay.
So that, let's say we get down the road and, we bill monthly. And so, we bill and then we're not paid. So at most, we'll continue to work for that next month while we try to work that out with the client. But we will stop work at that second billing. And so having that retainer protects me in the event that for whatever reason the client doesn't want to move forward, or they, are reluctant to pay. I haven't been in this situation before, but in the worst case scenario, I'm protected.
Okay. And the 1 to 2 months worth of fees, is it based on it's based on the number of hours you expect to put in on that project times your hourly fee?
Yes.
Okay. And do you go as deep as okay, me, Courtney, I'm the principal. I expect to work on this project 20 hours and my fee is X per hour. And my assistant, I expect to work on it 30 hours and her fee is X. Is that how detailed do you go? Or do you just assume it's 50 hours and you put it all at your rate?
No, I am a math geek at heart. So I have a whole Excel spreadsheet
Okay.
where I have, my process and then subcategories detailed, and I have myself and my assistant and then like admin cost. And then I say, okay, I allocate the number of hours that I estimate, and because it's a spreadsheet, it's pretty easy to drop the hours in there and then it automatically calculates. And that's how I do it.
Okay. And so when we're talking about dropping the hours into the spreadsheet, we're talking about if it's, say, a 3,000 square foot apartment, okay? It's a master bedroom, a living room, a dining room, and a guest bedroom, and, 2 bathrooms, okay? So you're going to say, typically, from experience, from tracking hours, this is a question, not a statement, that it's going to take me 10 hours to source for a master bedroom, 10 hours to source for a living room, 4 hours to source for a guest bedroom. Is that what we're talking about? And you're dropping those into the spreadsheet?
Mm-hmm. So my spreadsheet is by room, and by room I'll have sort of generic, like if it's a bedroom, I'll have like bed, nightstand, dresser, rug, lighting, bedding. And then I'll just sort of generic, and then I'll drop in, this will take me 2 hours, 3 hours, an hour. Oh. I get pretty granular about it. And that's really based on just experience, having done this for a little while now. And yeah, it's an estimate. I mean, obviously, but I try to get as detailed as possible so that when you roll it up, it makes sense. Because if I just put, it'll take me 25 hours to do this bedroom, I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me if I can't break it down and really understand, okay, yeah, realistically, it's going to take me, X hours to find the right bed, or, you know what I mean? So I think sitting down and having a list that says, a living room, bedroom, guest room, and then just putting hours to it, to my mind, that isn't enough.
Okay. So you're getting all the way down to how long it takes to source a nightstand, a rug, a dresser, a bed cover, la, la, la.
And again, it's fairly standardized, so it sounds like it would take a ton of time to do that. But once you set up your spreadsheet, it's pretty quick to kind of go in and say, okay, well, this is what I did on the last project, or this is what I typically do. And then I'll go in and make adjustments. So it's actually not that onerous to do.
Right. Well, it comes from information. You have to track yourself doing this often enough to actually know. It's like counting your calories. You have to count the Twix bar. You can't leave it out.
You do. And it's so worth it as an exercise, because you're not just doing it to price it at the beginning. I'm using that tool all the way through.
To keep you on track, so you don't go down rabbit holes. I said I would put 2.5 hours to find a headboard, and I'm on my second hour. Lock it down, lady, right?
Yes. Or I'm like, you know what?
I got to rob Peter to pay Paul somewhere.
Totally. It's going to take me 5 hours to figure out this bed, so I better be fast, on this other spot. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's a tool for you all the way through. So I think the investment of time is really worth it.
So that's a great distinction, is that a newer interior designer might say, well, I could say it would take me 4 hours to figure out the bed, situation, but it ended up taking me 7, and now I'm completely off course. And you're saying course correct somewhere else, lock something else down, take 3 things that you allotted 2 hours for, and somehow just make the decision in an hour for each thing.
Yes. And don't be afraid to try this exercise earlier on, like estimate, do your best guesstimate, and then try to use that as a guide. And if you do that and you're working on a project or two and you're finding, oh my gosh, I'm just so far off, that's information.
Right.
But don't feel like you have to wait to have 50 data points to start this exercise. today. Start this exercise right now, and I'm telling you, it will benefit you.
Exactly. And I don't know if you heard the episode recently on Power Talk Friday with Monique Holmes, where the episode was called How to Resource Like a Pro. And she suggests that, and I love this idea, by the way, she suggests that in your free time, when you're not in a project, maybe you're in between projects, or it is something you're doing while, your husband is watching the football game, you're sourcing. Okay, let me see if I can find 3 beds that are in this particular style that are in 3 different price points, medium, low, and high. And then do all that and then collect these resources so that when now 2 weeks later you have a project, you're like, oh, that bed would be great for that project. Or at least I know from putzing around that website for that particular vendor that there are things that I like there, as opposed to starting from scratch each time. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. It's so, so true. And that's why I also think it's really important for designers, for us in general, to allocate time for just knowing what's out there. Just going to the showrooms or going to High Point or doing internet research and just understanding what vendor has what, because if I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing a bedroom, I have a $3,000 budget for the bed. Okay, what vendors am I going to go to? And this is the style, and at a certain point you start to say, oh yeah, I know. Okay. Oli, they probably have a good bed, or Made Goods, or, Century, or wherever. You start to get a shorthand, right, and you become more efficient, but you have to sort of practice it before you get there. So you almost have to be inefficient before you can become efficient.
Well, and it's the truth. And when we had that show, and if you go back and listen to that episode with Monique Holmes, I'll put it in the summary of the show today, the episode number. But the thing is, I compared it to sports. It's, if you are playing, whether you're playing t-ball or baseball, you don't just go out on game day and expect to hit a home run. You put in hours and hours and hours of practice with the batting coach, with, everybody, taking hit after hit after hit. So when it's game time, you can get up and within 3 strikes, get a home run, right?
It's true. And for me, this is an area where I feel like I'm actively evolving, and it's, definitely on my goal list for 2019 to hone down my source list so I can become more efficient with this. I'm someone, I love to kind of late at night, I go online and I'm like, oh, this new vendor, that new vendor, and so I like to sort of discover new things. But, if you have 50 vendors that do good beds, it can get inefficient really quickly. So,
well, right, because now you really haven't honed it down. You're just,
exactly.
I picked 50, yay.
Exactly. So and it's also like targeting in.
Right. And also, too, from the standpoint of your business profitability, it makes a lot more sense to become important to 3 resources than to be unimportant to 10 resources.
Yes. And this is, I've been the last month or so, I do up my sort of next year planning in the 4th quarter. And this has been such a big thing for me because, of course, we're all trying to squeeze out profitability everywhere we can. And to date, I have, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 vendors, I've been, a small vendor to a small buyer to a lot of vendors. And, I want to change that.
Right.
And so that's something that is very front of mind for me right now.
Yes. I mean, it's a good business practice. It would be, I know for us at Window Works, we have, for categories, I might have 20 different categories that I have to purchase from in the course of our business for window treatments, hard treatments, soft treatments, and awnings. But within each type, I don't have more than 2 or 3 vendors that I order from. And when somebody comes into my showroom to say, hey, we have another new line of cellular shades, or we have a new line of woven shades, it's a hard sell to get me to go. It really, you have to be really exceptional and something really fabulous has to be happening for me to leave off of the one. Sometime I only have one vendor per product category. At most I have three. But there is not a chance that I am going to order woven woods from 15 different manufacturers. Not happening.
I like that.
Yeah, it's inefficient in every way. It's inefficient in my clout, right? I don't maximize my clout. So if I need a favor, so this is, all of us, if you need a favor, you need a special situation, you need help with a rush or whatever, you don't have any clout. But also, too, it's inefficient in the execution. So for me, my installer has to know 15 different types of brackets and packaging and everything else. But even for you as a designer, what is their shipping policies? What is their return policy? What is the delivery situation like it, and all of those things, to have to know it across 50 people for beds. I mean, you can get that down to five vendors for beds. I'm sorry.
And if you can't, that's another conversation.
Exactly. So, I mean, and you might, like you said, love to just in your off time, maybe you have taken the time in your off time to hone it down to 3 or 4 go-tos for beds. But that doesn't mean it's like flipping a magazine. That doesn't mean in your off time you can't explore others. You might take one off the list and add one, but you just don't do it in the middle of a project, right? In the middle of the project, you go to your go-tos so you can be efficient.
Absolutely.
Right. And of course, we're not talking about that one-off crazy pants thing where we really have to get something that we've never seen or heard of before, right?
Totally. And that's fun time. So
right.
And I mean, honestly, usually if you're going down that road, then you're at a price point where you have a little more flexibility.
Completely 100% custom. What could we come up with? Okay.
Love custom.
I love it. It's good. Okay, so I love that you do the welcome packet after the proposal. I love that you have the rules of the road. And I'm going to tell you, I'll bet you when you said you heard that on the show, I'll bet you that was Rachel's show too. Rachel Cannon had that same thing.
Yes.
So here's the thing. So after that, then you have the initial client meeting and you have detailed talk about budget, design concept ideas, the walkthrough of the series of photographs. And so at this meeting, you are not coming with things, products, items that you have selected for them. You're coming through with ideas and this series of photographs to say, love that kind of kitchen, hate that kind of kitchen, love that kind of, side chair, hate that kind of side chair, correct?
That's right. It's really a very open conversation and it's an opportunity for exploration. And for me, going through looking at a lot of different styles and reading their reaction, it's a lot of information. So I feel like it's one of the most valuable exercises for me so that I can go back and be pretty efficient on coming up with the concept, because coming out of that meeting, I've got a pretty good idea who I'm working with.
Okay. I like that. That's a very, I love it because there's no emotion attached to the selection being positive or negative. It just is either positive or negative to them, subjective to them. Like it, don't like it.
Yeah. And I even say, before we start, I say, tell me what you like, but even more importantly, in some cases, tell me what you don't like. If you have a sharp negative reaction to something, share it. And so if you say that at the very beginning, it becomes kind of a fun exercise for clients. And, by the, 5th or 6th, photo, they're, I like that. I hate that.
Right. You're giving them the freedom to be bold about it and not feel like they're hurting your feelings. You didn't pick these things for them. That's what I love about it.
Nope.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So that's
awesome. And they aren't, marrying themselves to anything. Yeah. So I find structuring it way, you get very honest reactions.
Right. I love it. Yeah. Kimberly always says, when she's about to search for fabric for somebody, before she has searched, she'll say, tell me what you're allergic to. Are you allergic to stripe? Are you allergic to flowers? Like, what do you hate, right? So now let me ask you something before we go to the other number 6, which I want to hop over to. But before we leave this first part,
Sure.
talk to me about, since you set up a retainer based on the fees that you expect to be the monthly fees, right? That's what you're saying. Are you doing the whole process just based on a flat fixed fee? Like how are you pricing your projects?
Yeah, so we do a fixed fee that's billed over a monthly basis over a period of time, which is great because it gives us visibility into future cash flow. It also helps the client to have, a set schedule and they know when payments are due. And it helps us to know how much time we should be allocating to the project at each period. So, at the very beginning, as we're understanding the scope, knowing again, through a bit of experience, we can say, okay, based on what we've done in the past, the first 3 months or the first 6 months are, very, very busy. So this is, these dollars are allocated to that. And then it, tapers off from there. So we do, sort of a fixed fee on a schedule. And we, bill at a number of rates within that fixed fee when we're figuring it out. And it's, for principal, for a junior designer or admin time. And then we bill our clients for purchases. We share our discount 50-50 with our clients. I find that creates a nice alignment of interests. And again, it helps to build trust. And then, of course, if it's custom items or, auction items, that's billed differently. But basically, that's how we bill.
Okay, so get me to, what happens. The newer designer, the newer entrepreneur is going to have that head swimming moment of how many hours does it take to do this? And of course, we've addressed that. They have to practice, they have to develop their skills in resourcing, create their library of go-to, and narrow down so that they reduce that time of running in circles. But even still beyond that, there is, think back, you remember when it was more difficult to assess a project and how many hours it would take. And also addressing, in that answer, Courtney, if you would, also address what happens when, let's separate it first. Address that first. What is that magic potion for
Sure.
really being able to start to make some good assessments on what you expect the hours to be?
Sure. And I should also put a caveat that if it's a smaller project, like a one room or something like, or just like a refresh, then it's hourly.
Oh,
we
okay.
don't do the fixed fee on a small project because I found that it's just impossible to have enough cushion for yourself if you're doing something small. So that would be number one. Number two, I would say that if you are very new, bill hourly.
Okay.
Bill hourly at the beginning. It's the clients don't love it. It's more of a pain, but it's data and it's discipline and it's important. So don't and I tried to do fixed fee very early on and I just got spanked. I mean, I lost my shirt. And so, our structure works better once you've had a bit of data and a bit of experience. So if you're starting out, my recommendation is don't try to do a fixed fee.
Okay.
Just my 2 cents.
Okay, so that's good advice. And so what you're saying is that in the beginning, you tried to do it because we're all been told, oh, do it, la, la, la,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you are not efficient enough necessarily. And you are, because that's the follow-up question. The follow-up question that I get from newer interior designers all the time is, when I establish my, fixed fee, what happens when the whole project runs way over? And so what you're saying is that is a byproduct of having lesser experience unto itself. That is a byproduct.
Part of it. And that's also why I like the monthly billing, because, and I have had this happen recently where we were, sort of doing the interior design in the living room and they said, oh, we want to do the kitchen.
Right.
That's kind of a big add-on. So, we say, okay, sure. That's going to add, X number of months of fees at this rate to the project. Easy, very easy. And so if the scope starts to creep, you can offer the client two options. You can say, okay, sure, we can tack that additional work on. And so we'll extend for an additional, 2 or 3 months, and the fees will continue to be charged for an additional 2 or 3 months. Or we can increase the amount of time we're allocating to the project, and the monthly fee will go up. Okay. So either way, assuming that we have the time capacity to do it the second way, either way works from our perspective. And I feel like with clients, again, you're giving them an option, you're empowering them. And I think anytime you can empower the client, it's a good thing.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that. That's really very clear there. What you just said is you're working on one part of their home. They mention the other part, and you simply say to them, that's awesome. Love to do it. Here's your two options. We can complete what we're working on now under the agreed upon monthly fee that we've established, and then start that when we've done this. Or I can tell you, I still need those fees to do what we've already contracted to do. But if you want to add that now and you don't want to wait, you can have another 20 hours, and that will result in this raise of your monthly retainer to me, or your monthly fee to me.
That's right.
I love it. It's very clear.
It's very clear, and I think it's a good balance, because again, when you're trying to do a fixed fee, it's hard to manage. If from the designer's perspective, it's very easy for it to get out of control. And so I think breaking it up into bite-sized bits helps you control your time allocation to the project. So if you're just thinking, oh, I have one big fee, I've got a $10,000 fee over the whole project, however many months or whatever, controlling that feels unwieldy, and I never could. But if I say, okay, well, I have a $10,000 fee and $2,500 monthly payments coming. Okay, let me focus on that $2,500 and how I'm going to allocate that and break it down that way. And I just find it's so much easier. It's so much easier to manage for the designer. And I think also one $10,000 payment or 4 $2,500 payments, it feels better for the client. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It feels better, I think, for everybody.
Right. I think that I'm really still stuck on the gold of the statement of, because I think what I understand happens is that when you're standing there talking about the living room, whether it's the 5th visit in the 3rd month of the project or not, it doesn't matter at what point of the project you're in. When the client then starts to say, oh, and how about the kitchen? We get the concept of, oh, don't get involved in the kitchen, don't do this. But I love the stopping and the announcing. That's terrific that you're interested in working on the kitchen. Do you want me to add hours to this project, add hours to this month to do both, or do you want to wait and do it later? I had to repeat it again because it's so good. I have to say what's funny is Nicole Heimer at Curio Electro, who we mentioned at the top of the show, does all of things related to my website for me, right? So if we have to put a new event on the page, if we have to create a blog post, and this is for both WindowWorks and for Luann Nigara, and we are on retainer with Nicole. And, what's interesting is I'm thinking exactly to what she said to me this summer when we were in the middle of really promoting and gathering information and building website pages to get the Power Talk Friday tour up and running. And about a week and a half into it, she said to me, I need you to know I'm blazing through your hours here on this. Do you want me to go into WindowWorks time and do no WindowWorks work this month, or do you want to add hours to the Luann Nigara part of the retainer?
I love that.
Right. I was able to make a decision.
Right. And didn't you feel empowered
Mm-hmm.
and informed, and that, she was kind of looking out for the best interests of you as a client? And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it
I
was the
really
big
like
girl
that.
conversation, because the conversation, the two ways that the two other alternatives, which are neither good, is to A, work for free. Like, oh, she thinks I'm going to do X amount of work on window works, but she's asking me to do so much extra stuff for Luann Nigaris, so I guess I'll just do it, which Nicole is never going to do that, by the way, because she's a smart lady and that's crazy pants. But as a newer entrepreneur, you sort of can get sucked into doing that, right? Or the other thing that would have not been good would have been to just keep plowing and then hit me with this big bill at the end of the month, where I would go, what are you doing? And she'd say, what do you mean, what are you doing? You had me do 90 extra things. And I'd be like, I know, but you should have warned me.
Exactly.
And you
Exactly.
don't think you need warning. You're a grown up. I'm, every day emailing her 20 things to do. But the fact is that it is a nice courtesy, and it does make you, as the client, feel like you're in the driver's seat. And there's nothing icky from your standpoint of doing that. I did not feel like, how dare you let me know how much money I'm spending with you and where it's happening, where we're tracking it right now. I felt like, thank you. I'm so glad somebody is keeping track of this for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And I mean, honestly, from my perspective, having another few months or however long of continued reliable cash flow, that's great.
Right,
They-
right. There's no negative,
yeah.
especially if you're liking the client and it's a good working relationship, right?
Yes. If there is not a good working relationship, then
Then
the
you're too
answer would
busy.
be different.
I'm too busy to start that kitchen. I'm so sorry.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I like it. I know there's 1,000 more things to talk about fees and billing. So for everybody that's saying, but ask another one, I'm moving on. Sorry. So here's what we're going to do. I want to hit this closure meeting before I let you go, because I know all of these 6 steps are very, very important. But this closure meeting is not something that we often talk about on the show. I do bring it up often in my one-on-one coaching, that there must be the autopsy of the project. That's what I call it. Like the valuation of what went well, what didn't go well, the closure with the client, the closure with the team. And so tell me what it means for you, Courtney, to have a closure meeting.
The closure meeting is just so important in solidifying the ongoing relationship. So your project is done, but I view every successful client project, that client is now an ambassador for me. And they are now a source of business, potential business. So I want that last touch point with them to be really positive and to reflect that first touch point, which was all about listening and understanding them and empowering them. So the first touch point is about that, and the very last one is about that. Now, it's a very informal process. I don't have a schedule that I go through, because I find that the discussion depends on what has happened in the project. So I kind of prefer to leave it a little bit flexible, but really the goal is to, ask them about their overall experience. Was the time frame, shorter or longer than they expected? Was there anything unexpected? Was there anything, were there any points in time where they felt uninformed or lost in the process? Was there anything that they particularly really liked about the process? I'm trying to suss out, why would they recommend me, or why wouldn't they recommend me? And if I'm hearing, negative things, I would already know that, the project would have been, going badly. But I want to hear positive and, not negative, but, constructive criticism.
Right. It's important.
So for instance, with hourly billing, I would, hear often that was kind of hard, because they kind of wouldn't know what to expect. And, I knew that was hard for the clients to sort of, wrap their hands around. And it took time for me to be comfortable enough to move away from that structure. But, that's constructive criticism,
Right.
So I think that it's less I think that the best way to handle it is to guide but listen. Like the whole thing is just being like kind of an open mind, like empowering them to tell you the truth, that it's so helpful to you as an entrepreneur, that you really respect their opinion and all of that. And it kind of goes back to that phase one. It's kind of the same thing where, this is your opportunity to say what you really feel and think. And at the end of that conversation, they love you.
Yeah, right.
They're like, she's the best. Yeah, maybe XYZ wasn't perfect, and maybe, MNO was, but at the end of the day, they're going to walk away with a positive impression, and it's all about the impression. It's all about the impression.
I love it. And how do I know that I hear you, that you do it differently per client and what's organic and feels right. But what are some of the ways? Do you sometimes just have a telephone call? Do you sometimes meet them in person? What are some of the ways that you have had this conversation?
Well, my favorite way to have it is to go and meet them at their home.
Okay.
And usually, and again, this is not a long, this is like a 20-minute, this is not a long, elaborate conversation, but it's informal. I'll bring them a little gift or like a bottle of wine or something like that. And just say, I'm always looking to improve and, would love to, hear your thoughts about, this issue and that issue. And, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? Like really have it be like, I'm asking your opinion because I value your opinion.
Okay. And so does that mean, it sounds like to me, which I'm not placing positive or negative on, I'm clarifying. Sure. It sounds like to me that you're not necessarily announcing, this is our closure meeting. It will take place at 2:00 at your residence. You're more or less, it sounds like you might be just like, I'd like to stop by and just thank you and show my appreciation to you. Can we get together Tuesday at 2:00? And then you bring the gift, and then you just casually through conversation ask whatever questions are appropriate to this client and conversation? Or do you say, I always like to have an exit conversation with my clients. Do you mind spending some time with me? It'll take 20 minutes. Which way do you actually do it, Courtney?
So I say it the second way, but I execute it the first way.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, so you announce that there's an intention for the meeting,
yes,
which is to have the conversation, the exit conversation, but you don't make it this, board meeting and all people must be present and check in. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And if it's been that you've worked with a couple, do you have any intention that you want both people present, or do you just mostly whoever was your point person? Do you have any feelings on that?
I don't. It's whoever was my point person is the most important. But if they can both be there, absolutely. But it's the point person, the person who was really the most involved, I think is the most important feedback.
Mm-hmm. And they're the one who's most likely to talk to other people about you anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the goal is twofold. It's number one, to get constructive feedback and to improve the process. But number two, it's to get that referral.
Right. And do you actually have any conversation in this closure meeting about referral, or do you just let the experience speak for itself?
I do mention, I say, and of course, if you have any friends or family, please do keep me in mind,
Right.
So I subtly.
Yes, right. We're not, and this is the next thing I do on my list. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's easy and organic, because at that point you have a relationship with the person.
Yes.
You know each other. So it's a pretty, it's not as hard as it sounds.
No, I can imagine it. Well, listen to me. I'm speaking for everybody. It's not hard. Go ahead and do it. No. I think that it is the thing about it is if it does feel like it might be hard to do. So if you are listening now and you're just wrapping up a project and you're feeling like that sounds like a good idea, but I feel like it would be hard to do, I need you to at least try to do it, because it is, as that exactly as Courtney is saying, it is so valuable, and so few people actually look at another person and say, I want to know what you thought of this process. That look in somebody's eyeballs and say, it's important to me to know the kind of experience that you had working with my firm. Would you share that with me? Think about, like, if the chef came out of the restaurant and said, before you go, please tell me, what did you think about my cooking? You're like, the chef wants to know what I think, right?
It's true. It's true. I have to say, like, I can't tell you how beneficial it's been to be the kind of person who strives to value, you know, what another person is saying, and simple kindness. Simple kindness, it gets you so far. And I think this falls into that category, and it means everything. And really, this whole thing at root, I always think, you know, if I was my client, what would I want? Yeah. And this is what I would want.
Well, and that's the thing. And that is the little nugget for someone who is feeling uncomfortable possibly doing this or insecure about doing it, is to recognize it is a gift that you're giving your client. Don't take your head out of it. You know, you just spent this X amount of weeks or months with a client, and think about, you wouldn't be uncomfortable to walk in and share a bottle of wine and give it to them as a gift. This is a gift too. This is actually a much more meaningful gift. I value your opinion, and I'd love for you to share it with me. The opportunity to share what we think of something is a unique opportunity, and we don't often get it in this world.
It's true. It's true.
I like it. I like it. So now the interesting thing is that I also took this to have a component internal. Because I am a strong proponent of having the internal autopsy, the internal of the project evaluation. Do you do that as well, Courtney?
I wish I had a more formal process for that part of it. Okay. After the conversation, I take my notes and I think about it, and I try to, you know, say, okay, I look at my process and I say, okay, this is, you know, where they commented. I don't have like a formal process though, where I sit down with my assistant and we kind of go through it or anything like that. But that's something I should do.
I would love to see you add that, because you have so much going on already, and I would just love to see you add that layer to your process, because that's where you look to see, you know, did we stay on track with all the hours that I said? Was this project profitable? You'd be surprised how many times I have worked with business owners who think they're making money. And they're not. They're just moving money. You know what I'm saying?
I know. And I mean, I'm such a, like, I love going through my books.
I know you're more intentional than 90% of the people out there. But that breaking it down, you know, breaking it down to really see what, you know, if the margin wasn't what you thought it would be, you learn something in that evaluation of where it went wrong and what you could do the next time. So, you know, but I know that you are handling your business front and center from finance out. So,
but you know what they also say, I think saying it goes something like, what you track is what changes or improves, you know, and so that's why it's like keeping an eye on your, you know, your operating margins and your, you know, it's not just the revenue, and just understanding all of that, and making, have it be a fun part of the business, because if I'm looking at the numbers and something is going awry, then next day I am like, that is front number one.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. When you have those evaluations, then you can make immediate changes, as opposed to the end of the year and looking at this big P&L and like, all right, I guess that was good. It's on. You do that as well. Of course, it's important, but it becomes, you know, it's just like anything else. It's when you start to see the little successes that you earn based on the little additions to your process that you put on, it gets you excited to repeat that process and that evaluation the next time. It's like, I learned that last time. What am I going to learn this time?
It does. And
So,
I like your idea to kind of apply that thought process to something that's not like a numbers thing, but really like sort of the efficiency side of the process, like purely, okay, they gave me some feedback on this step. Okay, how can I jigger like, our actual physical work product? I really like that.
I'll tell you the other thing too is just to like belabor it a moment is sometimes, especially as your company grows, okay? So when you are a smaller company and you as the principal probably have your hand on every invoice, but as your company grows and you have layers between you, simple things like maybe there is a receiver that you have used for several years and you as the principal are expecting what I don't know what receivers charge, if they charge on the percentage of the product or the pounds. I have no idea. I don't do that, right? So, but the point is that there are places that you spend money on a regular basis, month after month, year after year, as part of doing business. And as you get further removed from being the one who sees every invoice, it becomes there becomes a possibility for the gap to open up and some of your money to go falling through. And what I mean is, say, for instance, a receiver. How does a receiver charge? Is it based on the percentage of the retail value of the product or the poundage? How does a receiver charge? Just so I can use an example that you guys use.
Yeah, I think different receivers are different. The one that we work with, if it's just warehousing, they have like a monthly fee, and then for deliveries, it is by location and how many men and all of that.
So say you are running your firm, you're involved in every aspect, and now you grow, you add 2 people, and now all of a sudden there's, you're not unaware of what's happening in your firm, but the particular receiver you use, maybe when you were the one, reaching out and making all of those arrangements, it was $200 for a 2-man delivery, and now it's $295 for a 2-man delivery, but the person working for you now doesn't know that it used to be $200, or they don't really know that they should tell you that it has gone up. And my point is that as you grow, you need a mechanism that keeps you as the principal in touch with your expenses. And we find that at WindowWorks that the autopsy of every project is the great way to do it, because I might learn something. I might look at Adriana and say, wait a second, that's supposed to cost XYZ. And she'll say, oh no, they raised their prices or they changed this. And then we either go out and get competitive pricing and find out, did everybody raise their pricing on this or just this guy? Or we turn around and maybe I have a conversation with them and I say, dude, what are you doing out here? I've been your customer for 25 years. How come you did this to me? Or I might find that this is his price is higher than everybody else, but he's so good and he's so valuable that I'm willing to stay. But the point is, it's informed. I just don't have that money running out of my business and I don't know about it.
And it absolutely makes sense. And I think as designers, there are so many moving parts and so many, third parties we're dealing with. And so getting efficient and good at that can feel overwhelming. And so, the advice I would give is start with one. Start with one vendor or with one, expense line item, and just start from there. And eventually you'll get there, because if you try to do it all at once, it can be very
right.
intimidating.
Yeah. No, I agree. And for me, I know that there is one way that you run your business when you're a solo. Yes. And it's a very different animal when you have even 2 or 3 employees. But if you don't run your business as a solo, as if you had 2 or 3, it's going to be even more overwhelming and more balls in the air that are dropping when you add the people. And so I always say, run it now like it's a big firm. Do it for this reason. Right.
That's my whole goal is, while I'm one with an assistant, but, part-time assistant. And so it's really me, but I want to be set up, so that when the time comes, when I'm really ready to add on that next person, that I mean, I am like kicking, streamlined. And yeah, so gosh, that's such good advice. It's so true.
Yeah, it's the only way you can do it. So, alrighty. Let me tell you what, we could go 2 more hours. I mean, I say that often, but it's often true. And in this case, it certainly is. We didn't even do 2, 3, 4, or 5. Oh, man. But you are, I have to say it, #smart lady. You get one. I need a dinger donger for that whenever I say that. I'm definitely going to have to come up with that.
Thank you. Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of the podcast. So getting the hashtag, I'm smiling ear to ear right now.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us, Courtney.
Thank you, Luann.
Before I share my specific thoughts on my conversation with Courtney, I want to take a minute to talk about Article.com. One of my favorite things about Courtney is that she has the process and vision for her firm clear for herself and her clients. And that's exactly the same with Article.com. They have defined their brand as mid-century Scandinavian-inspired design for sofas, chairs, office and outdoor furniture, and accessories. Add to that their easy order process and the team of interior designers working in the trade division, and you have a recipe for success. Success for you and for your client. See what they're all about today. Visit them at welldesigned.article.com. Okay? So please use this link, welldesigned.article.com. That's how they know that you heard about it from the podcast. Now, Courtney has defined a 6-step process. It's right there on her website for potential clients to read and for them to help them understand what it will be like to work with her. We have had many designers on the show share how they have this, and I love this. I love it even more if it's not just words on your website, but something you actually follow. But here's the thing. The secret sauce is in the clarifying the finite details in each of these steps. So whether you have 6 steps, 8 steps, I don't care how many steps. The truth is, when you set your business up properly, the 6 steps are just the beginning. The next step that you have to take is you have to break down each of these steps into full detail and clarity. Okay. Remember Bonnie Fahey, episode number 375? Bonnie is an expert at the hiring process for virtual assistants, and she had said in that episode a particular line that resonated with me. She said, once you have written out a process for doing anything in your firm, and you think you have it really tight, that you looking at it, you read it, yep, this is a great process for a client intake questionnaire. This is a great process for, how to purchase, a sofa. She said to go and give it to someone who has no idea how to do what you do and see if they can go through the steps that you have written down and complete the task identified in that process. If they can do that, then you have a clearly defined process. Okay. I just had this conversation recently with someone comparing a process for running your business like baking. And I honestly can't remember if it was on my show or in an interview I did on someone else's show. But the thing is, what we talked about is you can't give someone a recipe for blueberry pie and simply say, hey, grab a couple of packs of blueberries, some butter, some flour, some sugar, and put it in the oven at 350. Because you know what? When you do all that, it's going to taste amazing and you're going to love it. I mean, the thing is, that's absurd. That it leaves out all of the details of how those ingredients become that amazing blueberry pie. Okay, but that's kind of what it sounds like to our potential client. And by the way, to our employees when we are training them. When we talk about a process and we only hit the broad strokes and we leave out all the details. Okay, if your details are missing because you have not documented them, you have some work to do. Now, what's the payoff for doing this excruciating, detailed work of writing the recipe for each of our processes? And believe me, I know it is. I promise you, I know it is. Okay, but there are benefits. And Courtney mentioned two in particular that she has experienced because she finally took the time to get clear in her processes, okay? The first benefit is that it gave her confidence in setting and asking for her fees, okay? Because she had a defined process. She knew she could successfully run a project. And when you really, really know that, then you don't worry about the money conversations because you know working with you has value. And it's not like you're just saying the words to your client, trying to convince yourself along with convincing them. It's that confidence of absolutely saying, I know I can do this well. I know I can deliver a project to you well executed. And see, when you feel that in you and you know it to be true, your whole presentation is different. There's a mojo behind it that is just sensed, and it's a transference of confidence from you to your client, and your client grasps it, and your client says, I'm going to be in good hands with this interior designer. Right? So I mentioned Rachel Cannon. She was episode 306. Listen to that episode too. She said the exact same thing. So if you need like a double dose of, okay, I believe you, that's where to get the second dose. Okay. Now, the other benefit that Courtney described was that when she became confident in running the process of the project, she learned it actually increased her creative confidence. Okay. Courtney talked about how she felt like, making better decisions for her clients that might just be a little bit out of their normal comfort zone. She felt confident in doing that because she was confident in her whole business process, and it sort of just spilled over. Okay, so where the client might have been a little hesitant to be brave in a design selection or something like that, because Courtney was self-assured, they easily transferred their trust to her. Okay, so this is, do not skip by this. Do not underestimate. Okay, this is a very powerful combination. A potential client has an opportunity. For example, let's just say a potential client is going to interview 2 interior designers. Each of you have beautiful websites with fabulous portfolios, okay? But one of you in the initial intake call and in the first consult presents your work, how you can expect to work with me, what the project timeline looks like, discusses budget with ease and as a matter of fact, because in essence, it is a matter of fact, okay? One of you is clearly the leader in the room, and this allows the client to feel that they will totally and truly be in good hands. The other is hesitant and uncomfortable stating fees, is all over when asked how it's done and how does it work, and is vague when timelines are discussed. I mean, who do you think gets hired? And here's the thing I want to tell you. If you are walking through that process, and you are thinking to yourself, well, I don't really have it all locked down, but in the conversation, I'm good. I mean, I'm good. If they hit me with a question, I have an answer. What I'm asking you to understand here is the difference between being okay or being pretty good on your feet and thinking like you're getting through that presentation and knowing you are. You see, when you know you are, and it is understood. And when you are doing the very best you can, you're not quite locked down, and the presentation's a little creaky, yes, some people are going to go for it, and others are not. But here's the thing. When that potential client selects the other designer, I'll bet you $10 for every designer who is not hired, they blame it on the economy, or the area that they're in, or the competitors on the internet. It's just not true. It's not. If you lose a project that was your right target ideal client and that you were right for, it's probably very much in the way you managed to convey how you will lead and manage the project. Hard truth, but so often so true. Okay. It's time for some big girl or big boy panties here. You need to look in the mirror. You need to do the prep work if you know that's what's lacking in your business. But when you do it, the business follows. The clients come through the doors. I promise. I do. All right. Now, are you feeling inspired? I hope you are. I get so many messages in a week from you telling me how much you learn from the podcast and how hopeful it makes and how it makes you feel about your ability to grow a business that fulfills and supports you. My question is, are you taking the next step? Are you taking action? You must turn that inspiration into action. I will accept nothing less from you, okay? A concept without execution is worthless. All right. If you find it hard to connect the action because you aren't sure how to do it, or you lose steam, or you just don't know where to start, or you have no accountability, I want to tell you, join me in New Jersey for Luann Nigara Live. It's about the conversation. Come spend 2 days with me, with my Power Talk Friday experts, Nancy Ganskalfer, Nicole Heimer, Michelle Williams, Fred Burns, Kay Whitaker, Peter Lang, Eileen Hahn, Shauna Lynn Simon, Claire Jeffords, Sarah Daniele, Stacey Brown Randall, and Mark McDonough. Imagine being able to hear these accomplished, smart people tell you in person how to build your firm. Imagine spending time with them during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, picking their brains, digging in, and pushing through the gray areas in your mind about how to set up your systems, your messaging, your hiring process. This is, I promise you, unlike anything else in the industry. This is us being together for 2 days, 2.5 if you opt for the VIP before it closes out. This is us spending that time together. This is access. This is conversation. This is learning. This is connecting. This is turning inspiration into action. Don't overthink it. If you need this kind of opportunity to take your firm to the next level, whatever that level is for you, please do it. Sign up. No excuses in 2019. All action, all accountability, all achievement. Go to luannlive.com and decide today to be with us, to show up and create your success. I'd really love to help you with that. Have an excellent day. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.